Episode 18 of The Young Man and the Three. Our guest today, Mr. Alex Caruso. This episode, as always, is presented by 342 Productions and Wondery Media. Mr. Trey Murphy, Jason Gallagher back in the building. Jason's been too busy for us recently, but Jason has decided to grace us with his presence today. What's up, fellas?
Things are good, man. Things are good. Glad to see Jason here, man. On the job. It was great to have him here.
You know what? I'm just happy to be here. I'm honored to be on this show and to be in the presence of Trey Murphy every time. I mean, what a guy.
Okay. All right.
So, Trey, Jason has some thoughts he wants to get off his chest, which we're going to get to in a second. But before that, you guys just got back from LA. Saw you last couple nights. You've been on a nice little stretch, but you ran into the buzzsaw, the newest Laker last night. Can you walk us through the Luka experience in the LA uniform as you've now had your first taste of it?
Pretty good team, like really good team. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was just them defensively. Like they play like a really smart defense where, they shut off driving lanes. They, help off of guys and they, just shot funnel everything into the paint, but also like still try to take away paint points. It's like really like hard to explain, but they do a lot of like peel switching, which is like if one guy gets beat, there's another guy there that, takes the driver and they kick out to the 3-point line. So like it's pretty good defense. I mean, I guess JJ has done something good with defense for once in his life. So yeah.
Fill the gaps. That's what I heard it's called. Fill the gaps.
Yeah. Can we talk about the bigs for a second? Because that was the question mark, I think, after this, especially when the Charlotte trade fell through. I think everyone knew with Bron and Luka what you're going to get offensively, but especially sort of like up front, there was a question mark, but that has obviously not been an issue so far.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, Jackson has been the number one defensive big since February 1st. And so, I think that's where people had their worries, but, they defend really well as a team. And then Jackson, I mean, he's a tall athlete. He defends well in space. He's able to protect the rim. And then offensively, all he really has to do is just stand in dunker spot, and Luka and LeBron are going to find him. So there's really not much that he has to do that he can't do. Like he's able to do all those things at a really high level. So I think he's filled that so-called void that everybody thought was going to, be present with the Lakers because, he's just been able to do so.
You've been on the opposite side of a couple Luka barrages at various points when he was in Dallas. Nothing as, not necessarily his craziest moments, but like he's played well against you guys. What did you notice?
Damn, you got to bring that up. Like,
why are you acting? Why are you surprised? But it's just a fact. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, he's played well against everybody. I mean, he's Luka
I'm not saying he's
Doncic.
particular. I'm just saying it's a fact that he has played well against you. But
Trey, he just keeps beating the shit out of you. I mean, what do you feel about this?
Like, all right, bro. Go ahead and continue your question, though, bro.
All right. Well, this is my question is, okay, so now you're playing against him and Bron. When we talk about what Bron has done since his 40th birthday, he's putting up stats similar to his MVP season in Miami, which is fucking crazy, in its own right. And that's a conversation in its own right. When you're running the scout and you got those two, what's through your head?
I mean, you just really have to be locked in and just understand, like, one, they're going to make plays, so you can't get discouraged. And also, two, you just got to try to make it tough on them. I mean, as hard as that sounds, like you just got to find ways to make it tough on them, try not to let them do things they really want to do on the court. And, just understand you're two really high IQ players, so you can't really try to, cheat the game. A lot of times you have to play them pretty honest. You can't just, like, try to force them into something because a lot of times they're just not going to do that. They're going to see what you're trying to do.
Before we get to some Dallas stuff that I think we want to touch on, we need to talk about Z because he's been going crazy. And you've seen this. We talked about this a little bit the other night. He's in great shape. Over his last 10, averaging 27, 28, basically 28 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game, shooting 66% from the field. He's had a lot of great runs since you've been his teammate, but he looks about as good and kind of just like all over the place bounce wise as he has in a long time. What are you seeing being with him?
So like I would say my second year, that month of December when he won Player of the Month and we were number one in the West, like that was like I saw like a top 3 player in the league. And he did that playing around like 32, 34 minutes a game. And now he's doing like similar things in 28 minutes a game, as well as he's been playing a lot better defensively. That's been the biggest thing I've seen, improve from him, is that he's been defending at a really high level. Teams aren't attacking him as much as they used to because, he's been locked in. He's been getting stops. And then also on the other end of the floor, he's been playmaking because he understands his gravity is like really, really like a lot. Like teams are really focusing on him. And like, it was funny. Me and CJ were on the bench. We were watching second quarter, and I want to say Lakers. He was like, it was just Z on one side, and from the nail, which is like the middle point in the free throw line. So Z is on this side. There were 4 Lakers defenders on this side, and just Z, and the rest of the guys were like the rest of the Pelicans players were on this side. So like it's literally like a wall of people trying to stop him, and he was still getting to what he wanted to at will. It's insane to watch, and I've been watching for 4 years. And I'm still, amazed by it from time to time.
When that wall is happening, and you're seeing it in real time, what's your action? Just get out of the way.
I mean, just space for him. Like there's times where you want to move and cut in the open space, but you also want to just give him room to operate and just understand like he's able to get through that as well too. Like he's not somebody that's just gonna see that and just like concede into it. He's able to pick it apart from time to time. So he's amazing.
Before we get to Alex, we did a good hour 20 with Alex in New York last week when the Thunder were here. He loves Trey. These guys everyone loves Trey for some reason. I don't get it.
For some reason we don't.
Yeah,
we can't
Trey's
know.
a dick to us, but he loves Trey.
Great guy, man. I'm a good guy, man. That's all.
I guess. I guess. So Trey, you know this about Jason. You're very close with Jason. You spent a lot of time with Jason's family. Jason is one of, if not the most preeminent Dallas Mavericks fan, I would say. He's written a song for Luka, performed at the arena. He's somebody that from the top down in Dallas has been well known as somebody that he's just a Mavs guy through and through. You guys haven't seen each other since this trade happened. We all have talked a bunch, but you guys haven't seen each other in person. Jason, do you want to give some of your thoughts? First of all, we should say, best wishes obviously to Kai. It's terrible. I mean, he's a great guy. He's been a model citizen for the city of Dallas, for that fan base, everything like that. We know how hard he works. Like he'll be back. And I think that we're just sort of like, obviously, sort of sending our best wishes that way. But do you want to give your thoughts on the state of your fandom and where this is right now? Because I feel like this is now percolating into a place that is a little bit unprecedented in recent NBA history.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've enjoyed. So Trey, I don't even know if you know this about me, but I actually used to be a writer. I used to write about basketball, funnily enough, which is hilarious because, I'm not the best writer. But ever since sort of getting into production, I've gotten to lean harder into the fandom side of things. And JJ and I used to talk about all the time how just important the fan side of things are. And he's always had like a huge level of respect for, obviously fans that are good and, don't cross any lines or anything like that, but just passionate fandom, even fans that love you, hate you. There's a place for that. And what Dallas had sort of like found themselves falling into was this awesome story about loyalty, right? And we all know in professional sports that's kind of a, it's a little bit of a fairy tale, but if you can buy into it, then that's the dream. And what Dallas had sort of fallen into with this Dirk Nowitzki situation was they could have a fan base that sort of believed in this idea of loyalty, right? And what I think has happened in the last month, not just the move itself, but the PR that's sort of come after the fact, has made this one of the strangest things I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying this from my side of things. It's just being pretty tapped into the people in Dallas, my own family, my dad, who's been a lifelong fan since like freaking Ross Perot was owning the team. Like, it's really crazy to see an organization and a fan base so at odds with one another. And what's really going to be fascinating is how they actually start to move forward. I don't know. I mean, a part of me is like winning basketball helps. But I don't know when the next time Dallas is actually going to see that. At some point, it feels like, I don't know if the organization will ever try to extend a hand to the fans, but every bit of news that comes out, whether it be raising season ticket prices or escorting fans from the arena or whatever it may be, it feels like there's a little bit of a war, to the point that even these nonsense conspiracy theories sometimes feel like the most logical conclusion, only because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Someone making a trade on its surface, you can argue that all day. The behavior after the fact, the sort of not having any sort of plan on how you're going to speak, and that's what's been most surprising. And to just sort of bring it full circle to Tommy's point, that's the thing that Kyrie's been unbelievable at this last month. He's been the best communicator for the Mavs. Like, he's just been great. He's been empathetic to the fan, to the organization. He's also been hell-bent on, but we got to play the game, and we got to, and it made it really easy to cheer for those guys. So I don't know, man, just the state of Dallas fandom is really bleak right now. And it's it's also like, we can't look to the Cowboys either. So tough scene. That's it.
Definitely can't do that.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And I know I'm talking a lot, but it's crazy.
I have a question for both. I have a question for both you guys, and this is, you're coming at it from different perspectives. Jason's coming at it. You're coming at it as a fan, but then also as a producer, media member. Someone who's a content creator. Trey, you're coming at it as somebody. We talked about this. We talked about it after the trade. You're in a situation. You're growing into a situation in New Orleans where you have your own connection with this fan base that you are establishing every day, basically. That just comes with real time, where it's like these people are spending money on tickets. They're spending money on League Pass. They're like flying around to support you, and they're getting to grow with like a younger team. I think my question in general after this, and if this is going to be a thing that's going to change in the NBA in particular, is if teams are going to like think twice about making rash transactions based off of the reaction like this. Because the reality is, Trey and I talked about this right after the deal. No one knew everyone was going to get hurt. You can make an argument on its face. There was this made sense from a basketball perspective for both teams. I don't think they anticipated how upset everybody was going to get, and so like when you're in a situation like this, it's sort of like if you're marketing a movie, don't piss off your fan base. Don't do things that are going to like make the fans of Spider-Man get upset before you get the movie out, or they're not going to go see it. And so like whether this is actually going to change that dynamic at all. And then Trey, I'm curious, like from like the player perspective, like does this affect any part of how you view the business a little bit when you're seeing how rash this thing is, like how much it's like spread around?
No, I wouldn't say that changed anything for me. I mean, because one, we're still human at the end of the day. We still build connections. Like, I've built so many relationships in New Orleans, and the people have showed me so much love and, just appreciation through all this stuff. And I'm not going to just stop because one day I could get traded. Like, that's just not me. Like, I'm going to still continue to, go out to dinner in the city and still show love to people, still take pictures, still go to community events, all that stuff. And, if that day ever comes, and hopefully it doesn't, I'll be prepared. It is what it is, part of the business. And now it's not like I'm going to, like, even if it was to be a day where I'm on a different team, it's not like I'm going to just forget about New Orleans or forget about all like the people that, supported me throughout this entire time. We're still human. Like, our basketball is our job, but what we do outside of basketball is just what we really like care to do. And, my parents have always been big on building relationships with people. So, that's just what I'm going to continue to do.
Yeah. And I think just piggyback off that a little bit. I mean, the fans of the Mavericks still love the players on the court. I mean, that's one thing that even some of the fans that have sworn them off, it's like you watch all these minutes of these guys playing, you're still cheering for them. The only thing that really changes is that you're probably going to cheer for them for wherever they go. I think that the sort of, I think the passion fades a little bit in the sense that, like it fades a little bit. I can tell you as somebody who has been a lifelong fan, it's faded a little bit. It's a little bit more, I understand where the kids are coming from these days when they follow a player from one team to the next.
Can I give you guys a comp? I just was thinking about this today. This is for Trey's favorite football team, who he, because of, is now has been celebrating for the last month, the Eagles. I would say there's a similar situation with Giants fans and Saquon as this. It's not a trade, so it's not apples to apples, and maybe it wasn't as surprising. But you have this thing where Saquon was so beloved in New York, and he had such a connection with the New York fans, and then the Giants basically in Trey's eyes, Trey's a Lakers fan right now. He's like, great, like bring this dude, like no, but I'm saying like bring this dude home. You know what I mean? Like Saquon has come to Philly and basically like developed that same thing. But I guess my main sort of like what I find to be like fascinating about the situation, looking at it from the like larger lens, is that there has to be an awareness that like the same way we always talk about, like you guys are human beings and there's a human cost. Like we talked about this with Cam and Duncan a couple weeks ago. There's a human cost of getting traded. And there's that which has to be factored in. There's also a human cost of like, this is a thing that there are emotional valves all over the league. It's what makes the league great. It's what brings, money and attention and, just sort of like passion to the league. And so it's a thing that like has to be respected basically.
Yeah. I think that that's the part that it feels like was overlooked a little bit. And when you hear some of the reports that sort of come out where it was like, well, this is why we didn't want it to leak, is because we knew our fans would be upset. It's like, if you know that ahead of time, then it probably should have been something to be considered, whatever. But this whole thing, it's a very fascinating situation. And I think that the Kyrie thing is as awful as it is, it was a part of the concern from people who had no emotional attachment to this trade. The basketball minds that literally didn't care one way or the other whether or not Dallas was good, but covered the league. They said, you're really kind of punting on your future for an extremely narrow window. That a lot of things have to go right in order for this to work. And the flexibility of it going wrong isn't great. So it's just a really fascinating thing for me. And now as sort of like a lifelong Dallas fan, to see it sort of come full circle for me, where it was, I talked to my dad this morning because I was like, Dad, the tickets to the game tonight, there are tickets for $2. And when we used to go, when they played at Reunion Arena in Dallas, we used to go to Mavs games at first because it was cheaper to go to Mavs games than the movies. That's what we used to tell ourselves. So we would go, and to sort of see it come full circle and see that all the sort of equity, the brand building, the story building that Cuban and Dirk and that whole franchise, that they had to build up from those awful 90s teams kind of go away within a month. It's like one of the craziest things. And the 30 for 30 for this is going to be an incredible watch someday.
That it will. Before we get to Alex, we have to do one more shout out. Can we talk about Ty Jerome for a second? Can you give him, I know you don't want to give him love, Trey, but can you give him a little love? We're going to have him on the show. I talked to him the other day. He's going to come on before the playoffs.
No, I have nothing bad to say about Ty. He's been hooping. I mean, but I'm not surprised at all. He has taken the past summer so seriously when it came to his body, his skill work, all that stuff. I think he might be getting an unwanted phone call from his financial advisor about, things that he says and words that he uses in post-game pressers and stuff. So, yeah.
Is he starting to realize that people pay attention to the stuff that you say and you can't just...
In all honesty, knowing him... In all honesty, knowing him, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was okay with living with the repercussions of it.
He just let it rip. All right.
That is, yeah.
With that being said, we will get to the conversation with Alex, and we will see you guys next week.
Mr. Alex Caruso, first time in the studio.
Yeah, new place.
What do you think, man?
Dude, I like it.
I haven't seen you in a while. I've talked to you a lot, but I've not seen
officially,
you.
not on video.
I've not seen you in person in a while. First off, I think we need to start with our friend JJ.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, man.
Coach.
What do you think? You've now gotten to play against them a couple times. I want your thoughts. I've had a bunch of thoughts, but I want your thoughts first.
Yeah, obviously I was excited for him. When he got the job last year, it was crazy just because, it was kind of like abrupt. Like it wasn't one of those things where it was like lingering for, a year at a time. Like came on in like a month or so that they were going to interview him, and then he got the job. And it's just you know what it really did? It kind of time stamped me. Like it started dating me in the league, where it's like, you see guys that like transition from like TV and they go to coaching. You're like, oh, they coached, and like, oh, they were on TV. And it's like that's happening in real time now. So it's like, damn, dude, like I've been doing this for a minute, but this is the first turnover of guy that went from playing against you to TV for about a year or two, and now he's coaching. So like that more than anything is like the real exclamation point.
What is your advice? Like if you were to talk to Luka after that trade, like what is your advice on going to the Lakers in particular now that you've had to live that?
Yeah, you just have to embrace it, dude. Like that's one of the places where it's like you kind of have to lean into it. If you don't lean into it, it'll just eat you up. Like if you start looking at your phone after a bad game, or you listen to it's like New York. The media is the media.
Yeah,
it's everybody from any part of the country to the world will have an opinion. And like one good game and it's the best, one bad game and you're the worst player ever. So like for him, obviously this is post Denver game the other night, so he's figured it out. Like he's still Luka. Like he's gonna be fine.
I mean, I'm trying to think. Can you think of any other example since you've been playing of a thing that has been this like just like not bizarre, but just shocking? I think
abrupt.
Abrupt.
Like so. I can't think of anything that was like that drastic. Like AD coming to the Lakers was a big deal, but that was kind of. It was in the fold already. Like people were mentioning that it was maybe going to happen through the year, and I think it was a little more understandable at the time.
Yeah,
but like I'm trying to think, like the Nets maybe putting those three guys together, but even then, like all this stuff had momentum. It had
there was like a preamble.
There was gossip,
yeah,
and like this was just off the cuff, so it was. I think it was everybody was caught.
This is what makes it fun, though. This is what makes it
professional sports, man. Where were you in that day in history?
Can't script it. We have a lot of Thunder stuff to get to. 46-11. At one point, the best net rating in NBA history. I said that to Matt. There's a lot to talk about, but before that, we were talking. I want to do some background stuff because like we've done some of it already, but I feel like I had a couple of random questions that I was thinking. I realized I've never asked you that I wanted to talk about before. College Station.
Yeah, shout out.
What was the recruiting process like for you? And then also, how weird was it going from like the high school scene to the college scene, and in terms of like having
my parents' house to the apartment?
Yeah, to juggle that. Because I just realized we've never talked about that, and it is a weird thing of like any kid who goes from high school to college in the same place probably has this same thought. And so how did that end up working out?
Start with the first part. The recruiting for me was slow. I was definitely, I think I'd be considered a late bloomer. Like I played varsity. I was on JV for like 2 weeks my freshman year, and then I got bumped up to varsity. We weren't very good, at 5A public school. We lost a bunch of games. And then sophomore going into junior year, I started getting on a little bit of the circuits and like playing in some games, and like got a little bit of notoriety. Not a lot. Like I was playing like Texas Gasso circuit.
How tall are you?
I was probably like 6 foot at this time, 6'1" maybe. And then junior year starts basketball, high school basketball. And I'm talking to like Northern Colorado, and same Houston State. Same Houston State's like 45 minutes south of us, and it's like, you know, one of the state schools in Texas. And they were trying to get me to commit like in January of my high school. Hard. Yeah, because I think they obviously saw what the potential was. And my dad, thankfully, you know, said like, "Oh, we're gonna play it out and see how this works out." He's like, "We're trending, like we're gonna check it out." And then I like had a crazy tournament in Vegas, like the Easter Classic. I was like dunking on people, and you know.
So was the growth happening?
At that point, that spring, my last year of AAU, I went. You know, I started going crazy, like all the tournaments, and then got invited to Pangos and then NBA top 100. And I think I even got invited to another one of like the NBA player guard camps, but I think I turned it down because this is like the most Caruso family thing ever. Like I had already committed to my mom and dad, like we were going to go see my grandma after whatever it was. So like I think I turned down like the Darren Williams elite camp or whatever it was in Dallas, which looking back on it, probably not the best idea. But at the time I was just like, all right, sure, whatever. And then from there I talked to like, you know, 50 different schools over the rest of the summer, and people were just trying to gauge my interest, see if they could get me to not go to A&M. And then almost went to Colorado with Tad Boyle. Really liked Colorado.
So you would have decommitted from A&M to go to?
No, it was pretty much down to A&M or Colorado.
Those two, okay.
And then one day I just figured out like I couldn't leave. Like I needed to try and go to A&M because that's home.
How did you feel like as you're growing and you, like you said, you're talking to people, like you're starting to sort of figure out your athleticism and come to your own. How did you feel like your game changed at that point? Part of why I was asking this was like we were Cam and I were talking about this about TJ McConnell the other day, about how he was just a completely different player in high school and college, and then the farther he grows, the more he starts to be like, all right,
you got to fine tune your
you got to fine tune it. So
you got to find a niche.
So what does junior year Alex look like?
Oh, dude, I was all over the place. I had floppy bangs and I was just dunking on people. I used to talk a lot of shit in high school too. Like everybody could get it. Like it didn't matter. Like I was just competitive, and I probably had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. So like anybody who was like, you know, they were yapping, I was gonna give them some back and make a couple plays. But I was doing pretty much what you see me do now, just a little more offense. Like I had the ball because it's high school. Yeah. So like everybody has the basketball and can do whatever you want.
When you get to school, it's like looking at your numbers in school. It's why you can't look at numbers, obviously. But you look at your numbers in school, it's
pretty
like
average.
Pretty average. Like
pretty average.
It's pretty average. Like I think you averaged 8 points a game for the 4 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think my junior year I got up to like 10 something, and then senior year we had a Anthony Collins guy from USF transferred in, like led the ACC in assists, started playing point guard, and I was like the 2 guard. I played more of a role I play like now in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like supplemental offense and then guard the best player on the team.
Looking back at the 4 years now, do you feel like that you were doing what you should have been doing at the time? Do you feel like there was a learning curve? Like what was with a little perspective on it?
Dude, honestly, looking back on it, I wasn't playing college basketball to go to the NBA, like until that wasn't a realistic thing until like my senior year, probably. Like at the end of my junior year, I had a couple really good games, and I had a game in the SEC tournament against Missouri with they had Jordan Clarkson and Jabari Brown.
Yeah,
where I had a great game. I had like 27, 7 and 7, and like 4 or 5 steals. Like I had the ball the whole time, and like they kept going under. I was making shots. Like it was a really good game, and all of a sudden it was like, oh hey, maybe this 6'5", you know, lanky athletic kid could like play a little. And then even my senior year, like I was so focused on like trying to like put A&M on the map and like give some respect for us. And like we ended up winning a bunch of games, got to the Sweet 16. I had a great year. That like until after the season, I really didn't even think about like.
Did you have anyone next in your ear? Did you have anyone saying it was possible?
I mean, I had our strength coach and a couple of our assistants. Like they let me know like, hey, if you really like dedicate yourself to basketball and like really get to work, like you could play however many years you want in the NBA. And like at the time I'm like, okay, sure.
Thanks,
yeah. Sounds good. Like, I'm gonna go play FIFA now. And but it worked out, and they obviously, you know, people saw whatever they saw in me long before I did, even though, I've never been lacking in confidence.
Yeah.
Maybe I just didn't understand what the potential was.
Well, you also, and I have a specific question about this in a second. You also have, as long as I've known you, but it sounds like as long as you've really been, sort of playing, you've also been extremely self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like you know whatever situation you're in, how to adapt to that situation and basically like provide whatever sort of like necessary for that situation.
Yeah, which is, blessing and a curse at the same time, because like I've always been really jealous of the people who just have like the ignorant confidence, like, almost to an arrogant sense. Irrational confidence, where it's just like, I don't know anything else, but like I should have made that. Like it was lucky they got to stop. Like that kind of ideology and thinking. But the self-awareness for me was also, a blessing, because it was like I knew I needed to work on stuff and I needed to like really compete to be a factor. And that carried me, from high school to all those camps by the end of my high school career, barely playing, to, all conference player, to getting professional looks, and now, undrafted G League to where we are.
It's funny. I wrote this down because I didn't want to butcher it. One of the best, arguably the best quote I can remember from any of the OM3 episodes we ever had was your quote with JJ and I, where you said, you were talking about the blue experience, which we'll get to. But you said, I'm going to read it just to, so I've said it to other people and then I fucked it up and I'm like, I'm going to read the exact thing. Yeah. You basically dropped this out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was a gym. It was
a big reason why guys get stuck in the G League is they don't realize the position they're trying out for. So go into a job interview thinking you're going to be the CFO of the company and they're looking for somebody to clean the bathrooms.
Yeah.
That feels like what you're talking about, though, is self-awareness. That's understanding at that point, but it is a thing of like knowing no matter what room you're walking into, that I can like put myself in the shoes of the other person in that room and figure out how to like help them.
Yeah. How am I going to fit in?
Yeah.
Like where like I'm going to find a space in this room.
Yeah.
Wherever it is, but like where's the space where I can get in and I can stay, and then from there, hard work, you earn a little more playing time, a little longer leash, and all of a sudden, you're all defensive team. And
so you feel like that really developed in college, that mentality, that.
Yeah, I think having the actual awareness of it and like the third person view of, what's going on probably developed in college, but also a little bit professionally once, we like all those things we talked about. I went undrafted, did the year in the G, did the G League Elite Camp, did, free agent workouts, summer league, like all that was just like, it was constant litmus test of like, where am I and have I gotten better?
You're paying attention to your surroundings.
Yeah.
You're being like, I need to live in the real world.
And
not
that,
in my fictional
and that
world.
is almost where I got the confidence from, rather than, like we said, the, irrational confidence of, blind confidence is like, I saw the improvement. And from there, it's like, oh, okay, I just keep doing this. And like, I'm going to make ground.
Yep. How much did you interact with Johnny Football?
A little bit. It's funny. I tell people I was there for 2 years. His 2 years were my first 2 years at A&M. And first of all, dude's superstar on the field. Like he was so fun to watch, dude. The first game they won at Bama. We were supposed to have a Saturday practice like at 1 p.m. or whatever. And I think it was an early game. And we pushed practice back and we're all watching the game as like he fumbles the ball, catches it, throws it to Ryan Swope in the back of the end zone. Like, we pushed practice back to finish watching the game. He's an iconic player. My first interaction with Johnny was before that, his first season. And it's the funniest story ever because it's like so crazy to see where he is now, even before that, 3 months later. And he's like killing it on the field, and it's like all of a sudden in like the Heisman race. I went to the rec center with Elson Turner Jr. and Jared Johns, our two seniors. I lived with Elson. Jared was a walk-on, and we played with another buddy that I think was Jared's friend. And then Johnny was at the rec by himself, just shooting hoops. Like he was just on the court shooting by himself. And I went aside. I was like, "Hey, you want to go play?" Like Elson had obviously known him for whatever. A year or so because he was there. He came and just played pickup with us, and he was a freak athlete. Like he like pinned somebody's he two-hand blocked somebody on the backboard one time. I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. And then a year later, he wins the Heisman.
Was he pulling up? Was he shooting too? Was he doing everything?
Honestly, I don't remember anything besides him pinning somebody on the glass, but like that could be because we were playing with me and Elston, and it's the rec center. So,
isn't it crazy when you deal with the best athletes in the world on a daily basis, and you see people sometimes, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's still different.
Yeah, that's. I think the perspective I've gotten from playing alongside and against so many like world class athletes is like when I see other people in other sports doing stuff, I'm like, people don't realize how hard that is. Like whatever that guy just did, or like whatever they just did in real time. Like that's impressive.
What's ironic, we talk about this all the time about like what NBA guys would be good football players. You probably be a good football player.
I would have made it work. I grew up in Texas. I played football
what I'm saying. And
my freshman year,
the way you embrace physicality, like you just are like,
I would have. My body would have been hurt.
Strong safety.
But dude, yeah, but like I don't know if I'd play defense, dude. That would have. You got to be.
I'm trying to think.
You got to be off your rocker a little to play defense, dude.
I'm trying to think what you would have. I mean, I guess you could have been.
Honestly, I probably would have tried to play quarterback.
Do you throw?
Yeah, I played quarterback in middle school. I was a backup quarterback. We didn't throw the ball, so I played strong safety in middle school, and I was like, I'm done with this. Played receiver freshman year. Got moved up to varsity freshman spring practice. Had a good spring. To play quarterback, didn't do any. I played basketball all summer, and then my dad asked me on like the Sunday before two-a-days. He was like, "Hey, you gonna play football this year?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't think I'm gonna play." And he was like, "Did you tell the coach that?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. I was just gonna not show up." And we went and had this long talk with our football coach at the time, and he like told me I was making this huge mistake, and like you're giving up blah 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 to play on this shitty 5A basketball team. Everything has worked out well for me now.
I was gonna say, but also I like this trend of your dad saving you from these.
Yeah, shout out to Mike. Shout out to Papa Caruso. Papa Caruso is a smart guy, dude. He's a smart guy. He
just knows how to read the room. Like, hey, maybe you should tell him. He
knows what he's doing. You need advice, go to him.
It's funny though if you go down the list, like take LeBron out of it. If you go down the list of guys who like would be the best NBA guys as football players, usually they're like the all defense guys. Like,
yeah, well, like, this is the easiest translation.
Yeah,
like those are always the physical guys, probably the best athletes. Like, just on our team, I can think of 3 guys that could probably go play football. Like Lou, Kaysen, and Jay Will. Like they could all find a position on the football field right now. I think.
Lou's the one. Anytime we ask, I think the last people we talked about this were Bane and Jaren Jackson, and he was there. Their one was Ant. And 1A was Lou.
Yeah, Ant's an incredible athlete. He'd probably be a receiver.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
I feel like he's just everything. I think
he could probably play quarterback
put
too.
the ball in his hands.
I mean, you saw his interview.
He also could throw.
Like 4th, 5th hitter, clean up.
The other guy I like maintain would be really good, even though I don't think he has ever had any interest in football, is Drew. Just with
for sure.
He's just so strong.
Physically, yeah. And smart. Like he'd play angles really well. He could be a great outside linebacker.
Bane never played. He's like built like a football player, and he literally just has never.
Where is he from?
He's from Indy. He's from rural Indiana. He's not from the city. Yeah, and he just didn't.
Northwest, you don't know what's going on football wise up there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
haven't heard of it.
No.
Looking back now on the Blue experience with what the last 6 months have been like. Playing for this team, I think the last time we talked about it, you were not a member of the Thunder, so you had this experience in your rear view mirror. Now it's a thing. How do you what similarities do you see? Like how do you like look at that experience now, having now seen both sides?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I actually thought about this driving to one of our home games the other day, of like how when I was in training camp and I was an E10 guy, and then I got cut and went to the Blue. Like I would always think about like, I wonder what their like day-to-day routine looks like. Like, what does it look like for them to like go to shoot around and go home and then go to the game? And I'm like, this is what it is now. Like I see it from the other side. But I think the coolest thing for me is like the organization still seems like the same. Like obviously they've improved and became a little more efficient, and the talent level is obviously through the roof. But like Matt's still here. Mark was my coach. DA, our assistant, he was my coach down there. Like Kevin Hyde, strength coach, was with us still. Like there's all these people that are just still in the organization, and it's kind of like the consistent message of like, yeah, put your head down, be a good person and go to work and like give it your best, and like that's rewarded. And I think that's part of the reason why I ended up back there is, you know, Sam recognizing that. And then obviously I have to have some type of success and play well. So like that goes into it. But I think all those qualities that, you know, you see within people of the Thunder organization, from players to staff to management, like it's mirrored.
I've noticed it. I mean, I've talked with both you guys about this, you know, in the past, but I've noticed it having to sort of deal with everybody. You see and you've now been in multiple situations as well. And it's, you know, like there's other great organizations and everything like that for sure. But like the word JJ would always use about defense was connectivity, and he would bring it up all the time. And I feel like you guys have that in an organizational sense, and that there just feels like there's an understanding of
roles.
And also like what everyone is doing all the time. And so like I almost wonder like even looking back at your Blue experience now, maybe they wouldn't have, you know, predicted everything that was going to happen, but they're probably not stunned to a certain extent. There's probably a level of, there's an awareness across the board of what everybody is doing all the time, which just feels like unique, and I think is like attributed to a lot of the success.
Yeah, and awareness of how it's all connected, you know, of what everybody's role is and how it affects the next person, you know, from Wilson, like our equipment guy, like taking care of us, to the kitchen staff, making sure that we have, you know, the food ready at home and then at the arena. And then, you know, just everybody's connected in one tangential way kind of thing. And I think the respect level of how that's all connected is really appreciated through the organization by just how everybody, you know, everyone's pretty much treated the same. And a lot of that, you know, you give credit to the who should be big personalities on the team, you know, very humble, Shai, Dub, you know, Chet, even down to Lou. Like Lou's been here the longest, I think. And he's one of the quietest, most humble people, but like he's out there kicking ass like night in, night out for many years
lead by
now.
example.
And just collecting his check, lunch pail, go home, come back, do it again.
How does Mark differ from then till now?
That's a good question. People ask me that a lot too. They ask me like, how has he changed? Like, and it's like, he's pretty much the same, like goofy dude still. Like Mark's a little bit of a nerd. Like when it comes to it, like he didn't leave his hotel when we were in the NBA Cup in Vegas. Like he just said he just watched film and was like ready to go home. But he's definitely polished. Like obviously he won Coach of the Year. Like some of that's team success, but a lot of that has to do with like his ideology, his influence. And he's a great thinker of the game. Like he was always kind of like that, but he's really sharpened possession by possession, manipulating the game, seeing, you know, advantages, disadvantages, and figuring out, you know, the route in between all that. Like he does a really good job of that. And dealing with NBA personalities, like that's a huge thing that I think gets looked over when people talk about NBA coaches. Like we see each other so much. 82 games, but like we're seeing each other
on the plane.
Yeah,
bus.
like double that, the amount of days, like preseason into, you know, days off, practice days. Like you see everybody a lot. So like having those relationships and understanding like how to push people and how to communicate, like that's a big thing. And I think he does a good job of that.
What do you think? And this isn't, you know, specific to him or even really any like particular person in a, you know, front office role or anything like that. But I feel like one of the unspoken but real challenges with this is not just the fact that you're seeing each other all the time and you're managing, you know, minutes and you're managing egos, you're managing all these different things, but also like this happens on every team. You guys actually may have it better than most, but you're dealing with all these outside people being like, okay, you know, so-and-so's hurt for 5 games, you're taking their spot. Everyone's financial situation is public. You know, everyone's contract situation is public. They're like, there are things that like, and I know this is pro sports.
A lot of external factors that go into it.
But it is also, you're dealing with a thing that is, I feel like it's unique in the NBA compared to even the NFL or these other sports where like people aren't getting in the weeds about specific contracts.
Yeah, they don't see the details of everything that goes on.
Where they do in the NBA. And so like just managing that from a locker room perspective, like what do you think the best way to do that is?
One of the cool things about our team is that like we're the youngest team in the league, I believe.
Yeah.
I think somebody said that, which I forgot until the other day. Somebody reminded us. But like so with that, young players, like there's plenty of ambition for individual success and individual accolades, and like everybody wants to get to the next contract and everybody wants to have that security. And one of the cool things about it is like we have that, but at the same time, it's like we understand like you need you need the guys next to you because like when you win, everybody gets paid.
Yeah.
Like that's a consistent in the league. Like if you're part of winning, like you get paid and you get the success and the rewards that, you know, the recognition that comes with that. Probably the main areas that we have so much success with that in is like the people that, you know, Sam has brought in. Like all the dudes are good dudes. Like obviously people have good days and bad days. Like nobody's perfect. Like it's the NBA. There's a lot of emotions, ups and downs. But being able to navigate that with, you know, dudes who you really rock with and guys who you can like openly communicate with, like that makes it so much simpler.
Not even just in your pro experience, but even just collegiate experience as well. Like the team is so close. Like we talked about this. I talked about this with Dub before.
Well,
you know?
it's basically a college
it's
team.
crazy.
Half
It's
the
like,
guys should be in college.
But it's like, but there is a thing which that does feel unique. You've been on a team that won a championship.
Yeah, I've been in the opposite. I've been in like the oldest team in the league and then like the youngest team.
So you've been in these different situations, and this is unique. This is not a thing that happens everywhere.
Yeah, no, and to have, you know, as much success as we've had to this point. Yeah, no, it's definitely unique, and it's fun to like theorize and like see. It's like, oh wow, like we're gonna get better. Like, you know, most of the time when you're on a team like this, like 4 or 5, 6 of the guys have already like gotten to like the point where it's like, all right, that's not maxed out, but like you're pretty much, you know what you're gonna get from them. Like, a large majority of this team can get better. And like that's a scary thing to think about.
Well, they're proving it in real time. You're probably a year or two ahead of everyone's. Like a year, like last year, everyone was like, this team's a year or two ahead of schedule. Now I think you're not sneaking up on anyone anymore. But there is.
No, we're getting everybody's best shot.
I was going to ask
that's happening. That's the thing.
So we talked. So we did an ep with a couple weeks ago, and I asked him about that because I was basically just like, you know, it's become like a cliche phrase, but I sort of think it's accurate in terms of like the hunter to the hunted.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a thing which you guys now are. And so,
which is a different thing in the NBA to navigate.
But so you've been through that before.
Yeah.
They really haven't. So what's your advice on that?
Yeah. I mean, that honestly is like the best tool to sharpen, you know, your own blade because it holds you to a standard that's higher than, you know, 85% of teams in the league. Like there's only a select few teams that are viewed that way.
Yeah.
So to get everybody's best shot, I think is just it's you have to look at it as like, I don't want to say a blessing. That sounds like cliche, but like you have to use it as a tool, like to your benefit. Cause like, you know that every night your best is pretty much required to go out there and get the job done. Because if not, like the other team's coming for you.
Yeah. And also it feels like just from a pure reps, like, you know, mental memory standpoint, a lot of these, especially these Western Conference games are like everyone's going to roll out different stuff in the playoffs, but you also are
you're sizing up a little.
You're seeing you're seeing what's out there in a way that other people might not get to. What were so I think I talked to you the day the trade happened, or maybe the day after the trade happened or something like that. And it's obviously it's a thing that like you were in a bunch of rumors for, you know, years about different stuff happening.
many years,
everything like that,
many deadlines.
But so your thoughts about the guys on the team before having just played against them, not being their teammate, not being with them all the time. Like, what were your thoughts about Shai? What were your thoughts about Chet and everything like that? And then when you got here, how did those like shift immediately?
Yeah, I think that was the part that I forgot about during the trade was like starting over from square one to create relationships with my teammates. Cause like obviously LA, like I ended up being there, you know, with most of those guys for at least 2, maybe 3 years. If not 4 with Kuz, I think. And KCP maybe also. But anyway, the starting over of the relationships was the part where I like, once I like got into the building, I was like, oh shoot, like, dude, I know nothing about you. Like all I have is these preconceived like notions about how you play basketball. But you know, I was pleasantly surprised because like, you know, Mark came and saw me in Austin in the off season, just check in, like see, you know, obviously I'm new and he wanted to say, what's up? Come watch me work out. Normal stuff, you know, summer stuff. And one of the things he told me was like, the guys are great. Like when they're a little goofy. Like they cut up, but when it's time to compete and go to battle, like the guys lock in, and that's been true to a T.
So with Shai in particular, he's, I think everyone's basically agrees is having an MVP season this year. He's been very good for a long time. This is not a new development. Seeing this up close, was there a little bit of like, shit, I didn't realize this guy was like that until you got here? Or did you, when you're sort of sizing up your new teammates before even getting to OKC, you're like, I'm walking into a situation with an MVP. I'm walking into a situation with a guy that's the best player in the league, the best guard in the league, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, in my opinion, I thought him and Luka could have been a coin flip last year. Like, obviously, Joker's Joker. Like, it's hard not to give it to him.
Yeah, he's in it every year.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys that's just going to be there because the numbers look great and he is that good. But I thought, watching him and Luka play last year, I thought if one of them would have won it last year, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that. So coming into this year, I knew that he was going to kind of be ready to go, but like getting to know him now and knowing how competitive he is, like I could see the type of season he's having is like he has, he might not ever come out and say it publicly, but like the dude competes and he wants to compete every night, and he like thinks it's a blessing to be able to go out there and play basketball every night. And so seeing him in person and how effortless he makes it look, like he's one of those guys in the league where it's like you look up at the end of the third quarter and it's like, oh shit, he's got 32, 7, 6, and 3 steals and a block. And it's like, I mean, I thought he just, was having an average game. Like, it's nothing crazy. Like, it's not allowed anything. It's just like routine. And that's when you really get into like, the superstar category of like, it looks easy and you're putting up crazy numbers and it affects winning. That's when you get into different categories.
Did he ever, like last couple of years, did he ever really cook you?
I don't remember him ever having like a crazy go off game. But it was, I mean, he definitely won some of those possessions for sure. Like I don't think anybody's shutting him down.
Yeah.
We have to go back and watch the film. I thought I did a pretty good job. I don't know what the stats are. It'd be fun to look up. It'd be fun to go look up the numbers and see what it was compared to.
Well, because like my question, which I'm almost hesitant to ask because I feel like we're gonna have to cut it. But I'm like, how do you defend? Like how does Alex defend Shai?
Yeah, we're gonna save that one. We're gonna save that one just so we don't give any nuggets away.
This is the same. We're gonna get this is the summer. This is the summer
answer. It might be
though,
because we weren't the best defensively as a team in Chicago. So like it might have been a case of like everybody else is kind of getting a little above their average. So he might have been.
He's just he's scaling. He's scaling back up.
One of those things.
So Dub, I saw this stat from Nick Gallo. I think it was today or yesterday. He said. One of 12 players in NBA history to score 3,500 points, 900 rebounds, 800 assists, 250 steals, 100 blocks in their first 200 games. And the other dudes are like MJ, Bron, Magic. It's like murderer's row. And then he's in it.
HOFs.
Yeah. And well deserved all-star for sure.
Definitely.
But just your sort of takeaways on what he brings as like a dude and as a teammate or as a player and as a teammate, because I think the player stuff speaks for itself, but I also think we've talked about this with him before. Like he's the Energizer Bunny. He's the guy that's sort of the heart and soul of what you guys do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, to be able to play with him, like you said, like the Swiss Army knife, it's a generic term, but like he's probably the most accurate version of that in the league this year. Like 21, 5 and 5. He's got a couple steals every game. If he needs to, he'll guard the 4 or the 5 on the other team. He's also going to just like rip somebody at half court and then go down and dunk it. 3-level score. Like he can pretty much do it all. And I think the compliment he is, has played to Shai this year is a big reason why we're having the success we are. And only, like you said, 200 games, something like that. So which is back to my point from early in the pod, like he could get better. Yeah. Like this isn't peak.
Scary.
Yeah. This isn't, we're not at the top of the mountain.
This is objectively speaking, this is what's scary for everybody else in the league about you guys in general. This is everybody can get better. This youngest team, like every player can get better. And that's not even talking about the assets and all that stuff, which is almost a different conversation because it's not relevant to the team this year.
Yeah.
But there is this level of, I would imagine like frustration a little bit about like, this is not the last dance.
Hey man, everyone plays the game. Some people just play it better, you know. Everyone's got a chance to make something happen, and our guys just do it really well.
So defensively, I wrote it down. Your defensive rating is like 105 or something. I think the next best is like
it's gone up a little in the last month. I think.
Yeah, you've been you've been sort of the top of that category from the jump.
Yeah.
What do you just think in general? Even from other experiences as well, like what do you think the traits of a great defense is? Team defense.
You got to have some good individual defenders. Like you got to have a couple like really good individual guys. I'd say probably at least one shot blocking big and one point of attack defender that can really get after it. And then from there, just like the intangible stuff. Like you gotta be good communicators. You gotta be nasty. Like you gotta be able to put your nose in plays and be tough. And then connected, like what JJ's favorite word, right? Connectivity. Yeah. Like you gotta be on a string. Yeah, you gotta move together. Like guys are too good in the league. Like we play against Ant, and it's like you give him a sliver of an opening, and he's downhill, and it doesn't matter if you get 2 or 3 guys there. Like he's gonna get fouled or get to the lane. So yeah, you gotta have good players. You gotta be connected, and you gotta be tough, dude. You gotta be able to have a little amnesia and get to the next play sometimes.
just get to it.
Yeah.
With Chet, what is your, he's obviously missed some time. He's working himself back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Insane talent.
Yeah.
What is your just playing experience been like with him?
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's just like we almost forgot, because we were rolling, and then he came back, and we almost forgot like what a luxury it is to have him. Like there's a couple plays I think in the first couple games where it's like guys got beat one-on-one, and all of a sudden he's there, and he's just like, double hand Mutombo block at the rim, and it's like there's no chance for this. Like I think Scotty Barnes beat somebody baseline in one of our games before the break, and Chet met him at low man, and like Scotty Barnes is has good length, is athletic,
big dude.
Yeah, like 6'10", 6'9" guy. He had no chance, and like I was like, we missed that. I forgot what that was like. That's nice to have. And then the last, we've been playing him at Hart together, and he's stretching the floor and making threes. Like the versatility of that is, I don't want to say unprecedented, because I'm sure there's guys that have done it like at least decently, but same thing. Like he's 20, 22.
Yeah.
He's going to get better.
Yeah. I saw it a lot in New York last year. Did you realize with Hart, with the playmaking, what he was?
Yeah, I knew he was. We played him 4 times the last couple of years when I was with Chicago. Yeah. So like
he
didn't, it wasn't as much here because he was playing with Jalen, and Jalen was, having his 3 months where he had like 35 a game and just doing everything. But no, I knew what kind of player he was. I knew he had the passes and stuff, and that was even something like I was behind playing with him when we first started, like on cuts. There was a couple cuts where like I'd go play splits and try to either cut to the rim and I was late on my slip, or I would cut and I wasn't 100% looking at him, and like the ball's running. I'm like, oh shit, my bad. Like,
are you guys the old heads?
I'm the oldest guy on the team.
How old is he?
Me and K-Rich. Hart's only 26.
So you're like grandpa of the team.
Yes, they call me OG, an old guy. Like I'm like a median age, like barely over median in the NBA. But I'm the oldest guy.
This is the thing you were talking earlier about dating about the.
I am getting there. I'm getting there. This is worse than TV guys. Year 8. We're getting there.
This is you in LA.
But they're also like, they're kids. Most of them are like actual kids. So like they don't know any better. Kaysen makes fun of me because I'm bald all the time, and he's like, it happened one time. I think it was either, I can't remember if it was at practice or at the arena, and he was looking at me as I'm like walking in, and he's like started laughing. I'm like, what? Like what is it today? Like what are we doing? He's like, I just really forget. Like you're the first bald teammate I've ever had. And I'm like, dude, it's because you're 22 years old. Like you've only played with high schoolers and college kids.
You're like,
yeah,
we'll go to the next 12 years of your life.
Yeah, if I didn't like him so much, we'd have issues.
That's really funny. I was gonna ask you about him in particular. He's already so good defensively. His hands are so good.
Athlete, dude.
The two of you guys together, I feel like two of the best really in the league at that. Is how much of that do you think is just instinct versus something you work on?
Well, for him, it's almost all instinct because at this point he has such a little
track record of
playing with. Like for me, it's like I had to learn what everybody's like tendencies were to be able to like get in position and be good at it. For him, like he's learning on the fly and just like pure athletic ability, just defensive mind. Like I'm just sitting down and guarding. Like he's blocked more jump shots this year than I've seen in my entire NBA career. Like normally in a season, you see like one jump, like a jump shot guy pull up, off the dribble shot from 15 feet or further, and he's like jumping second, blocking it, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? Like this is like he's got some natural ability that's it's not teachable.
Are there other things with guys in the team that you feel like you've like, not that you feel like is coming soon, but like that you've noticed that maybe don't get as much attention as you feel like should, in terms of just like little details that you feel like, because everything contributes to this
for
success.
Sure.
It's not Shai's probably going to win the MVP, all these different things, but like that isn't, you don't get to this point just with one dude. You don't get there with 2 All-Stars. You get there with 8 or 9.
Yeah, I mean the crazy thing is like we're the roster is the healthiest it's been all year right now, outside of Topic, who's obviously out for the year, and then AJ Mitchell, who is on his way back. Like, I'm trying to put it into perspective of like how deep the team is, but like the talent at the depth. Like some teams are deep, but it's like this guy can only shoot, or like this guy can only play defense and run the lane. It's like this guy's really just a creator, like he can't really shoot or like play defense. Like we just have
guys who do a lot,
12 guys who can dribble, pass, shoot, defend, and like guys like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, who don't get a lot of notoriety, especially with the OKC market being the way it is, like to where if they're playing in New York or LA, like people around the country in the league, they would know more about those guys. But like that's one of the things. Like even K Rich has come in and played small ball 5, and like he's shooting the ball really well, rebounds really well, can guard. Like there's not a lot of guys on the team that can't play basketball.
I think what's exciting a little bit. I mean, you guys may disagree with this. Like, I thought it was a joke that you weren't playing on Christmas this year based off of last year. It's not that big of a deal, but like I just thought it was stupid. For some,
depends who you ask.
Well, I mean, I can ask you. I just thought it was stupid. I'm like, this is you look at what happened. Like, you don't have to be some crazy prognosticator to see that you guys are going to be really good. This was that
you'd think.
One would think, yes.
Yeah.
But I would say that what I think is interesting about that, and I don't have the number, Matt would have it. I don't have the number in front of me of the national TV games, but I'm like, this is also like, this is what makes the playoffs fun. Because everyone then gets to see.
Yeah, I mean, some of that too is you got to earn it. Some of it's the market. But at the same time, it's like, you should recognize, what's coming. Like, I don't think anybody thought the team last year, and like, obviously I wasn't part of that team. So like, maybe I didn't earn the Christmas game. So like I'll hold my commentary on that. But like those guys fought tooth and nail to the last week to be the number 1 seed, and like to have all that, that comes, that it is the notoriety that comes with that. You'd have to think that, the writing's on the wall somewhere.
It is funny. You do have a very specific, individual, unique perspective of like, you play in the biggest market and you win a championship in the biggest market. Then you play in another massive market with an international brand, basically not as much success, but it's still like a team that is like on that
led the league in attendance
always, like on that top 3, top 4 pedestal. And now you're in this, and we talked about this with Dub, with a great fan base, like
tremendous,
one of the best fan bases in sports. But it is like a market that it feels like it hasn't caught up with the like casual exec that schedules games yet. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're on Twitter all the time, you get it, but you don't get it.
Some of that too is like with how it is like if the team doesn't have massive success, like the random fans in Iowa and Nevada, like these NBA fans, guys that like basketball, aren't necessarily gonna watch Oklahoma City play whoever on a Wednesday at 6:30. But like I said, a little bit of that's market, but a little bit of that is like earning it. And I think the the numbers and the labels that come with it, I think are starting to get to the right place to where I think we'll see some change.
I think it's also just this stuff's going to change naturally. I mean, think about this in like the W too. It's a lot of it's Caitlin, but like the Fever are a phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went to their opening game and I went to her last home game and it is
sold out.
It is. They're moving arenas,
yeah.
And so this is like Indianapolis is not a huge market. It's another great.
It's a great sports city though.
Great sports city, great fan base. But this is the idea that you have to be in one of these cities basically for it to be a draw nationally is like been proven over and over again to not be correct.
Yeah, it's like finding talent in college. It's like if you're good enough, they'll find you.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. Like if you're good enough, you're going to be on TV eventually. Like the product is too good to not put.
What do you think about what Dub said about there being 2 defensive players of the year?
We talked about this. I think I don't think you can do 2. But I do think that guards aren't given enough credit for what they're doing in the game of basketball right now.
Why don't you think there can be 2?
That would be like
weird.
You can't share an award. Like I don't think like it'd be like co-MVP. Like just give it to somebody. Like if nobody has like done enough to stand out by themselves, like what are we doing?
Yeah,
it should just be. It's an award. It's not awards.
So would you because this is a thing that could affect you. It could affect Lou, for example. I think it's also we were saying it's insane. He's never made all defense. Which is
insane.
Also crazy.
Crazy.
But like, so you're sort of of the mind that even if it means you can never win this award based off how it's decided, you're still like, I'd rather have it be just have like I don't want to share. I don't want halfsies.
Yeah, no, I think that's the competitor in me, and I think that's the competitor in just about everybody in the league. Like, I think if somebody said something differently, we'd have to question, like, their intentionality behind what they're doing, like why they're playing the game. Like, I don't think anybody's going out being like, the sole reason I'm going to play tonight is to win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not going to do anything else. Like, you just are playing so good through the course of the season. Like, that's what happens. I'm also, I don't know if I'm the expert on this. Like, I have a lot of opinions about what all defensive teams look like after last year and how the voting process and what the formatting is. But no, I think one award, dude.
What is your rule change if you had something, or maybe not even a rule change, but like, what's your change for the league overall that you feel like if you're Adam for a day, you're doing?
I think it would have to be somebody said something about like the national TV game on a second night of a back-to-back. That's just putting, that's probably safer for the product that we don't. But like, depending on the matchup, like
but
I kind of want to see that.
There's no
what.
like in-game, like an in-game example. This is like a small thing that Duncan was talking about a couple of weeks ago. Was like, making if you take a grenade at the end of the shot clock.
Oh yeah,
like maybe they're not counting things like that.
Yeah, somebody said that. That's an interesting one. I don't know, dude, because if it goes in, I don't know.
You want to count it?
Like that's like, like what are we talking about? Maybe the somebody said, I know what somebody said. They said something about like it's like the last 2-minute report, but for the full game, like seeing the full criteria of like the percentage of calls, just like our percentages are made public. That's not a bad idea. I don't know that would never happen.
Just get into details. Just
yeah,
be like,
it would never happen.
Let's just do full transparency on the
yeah. The ideal world that would happen, but that's not realistic.
This is like kind of a broad question, but do you think there's like too much complaining about in like NBA discourse and like conversation right now? This was a big thing after the All-Star game, and I'm worried of like
from players,
just from everybody overall. Maybe not even from players, but just like. Even the idea that like everyone needs to throw a fit over the All-Star game, or everyone needs to be complaining about the ratings, or like
I think that's more just like sports media, the entertainment world that that's kind of influenced it.
Yeah,
like, everyone has an opinion.
Yeah,
like you could have the best product ever, and everybody's like, oh, we like this. Somebody's gonna find something they don't like about it. Yeah, like what are we talking about? Like. You're not gonna please everybody. Like at the end of the day, you got to make the best decisions for like what we think are going. But I guess to answer that, yeah, there is too much, but we're not going to stop people from having opinions. Like, that's forever going to be.
What's interesting, we did it a couple of weeks ago with Duncan and Reeves in LA, and I was asking them about information diet. like the stuff that they consume.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, because Austin doesn't do it. He like plays golf, plays basketball. And, like,
Yeah,
that's it. Like,
me and Austin are pretty.
Yeah, you guys are pretty.
We're pretty in line,
You're
right
pretty
there.
similar. And
Yeah,
Duncan has become more like that too. But I do feel like the thing that it gets talked about, but the thing that probably doesn't get like it's the amount of like toxicity when you go online after any. You guys don't lose that much, so you don't probably see it as much as other people do. But like this is it's insane.
Oh, it doesn't matter win, loss, whatever. You did make enough shots, no matter what. You didn't grab enough rebounds.
And
yeah,
there's an element of like everybody basically needs to be like that. Like they need to be like you are basically to be able to focus, or you're going to be thrown off.
Yeah, I mean, part of it too. I think the thing that helped me the most with it is like if it wasn't somebody who had a direct influence on how much playing time I had, or how I was working out, or what my basketball looked like you have to just numb yourself, because it's like, what are they going to like? This person doesn't control my playing time. They don't control my paychecks, and they're not my teammate. Like, why should I care?
I just don't care. Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? Like, I just literally don't care. Like, my life's hard enough as it is. I can't worry about your life influencing my life. What am I going to do? I'm just going to be sad every day because there's a million people that think I didn't do something right.
Yeah. You just like, it's like, don't read the comments. You're like, I just don't.
It's just like, what are we talking about?
Besides the obvious, do you have a favorite bubble story or moment looking back on it?
I mean, winning it was pretty good, but outside of that, leaving, I don't know. Kids to go home. I don't know. I played a lot of golf before we started playing. Before the playoffs started, that was nice.
Is there any just sort of like in retrospect on that experience? I mean, it's funny, we were talking about the Lakers thing earlier, but just like where you are now as a pro and what going through that experience, basically like what that instilled in you.
Dude, honestly, like that, the Luka trade's probably right behind that year, is like as far as just like obscure, random, like the Kobe passing to COVID to go into the bubble to win a championship. Like that year for me it was just another hurdle after another hurdle.
You got a mural?
Yeah, the murals, like at that point, like from going to like we were such like we were it. Like it was the Lakers and we were rolling, and every city we went to, so like it was crazy to all that stuff happening. I think if anything, it just really helped me learn how to be even keel, because there was so many ups and downs in that year. Like it started going, we were world beaters on top of like Lake Show, traveling, beating everybody. We got Braun, we got AD, we got Hall of Famers, coaching staff, players. Like it was a time. And then the Kobe tragedy, and then COVID hit on top of that, and like the world seemed like it was ending. The Black Lives Matter movement, like to the bubble, to winning it, turn around a month later and we're playing basketball again. Like, dude, you talk about a crazy year. Like I think if anything, it really helped me just learn how to like process emotions and stay level-headed and kind of keep moving forward.
If you're giving advice for somebody building an organization, I think that what these guys have done
blueprint
is a pretty good blueprint of basketball. What do you feel like now, because you've seen all sides of this? What do you feel like now, like the tenets? You and I have talked a bunch. We talked about a little earlier about the tenets of a good locker room, but like the tenets of a good organization or a great organization, I should say.
I think transparency and communication are huge. I think when you get those two things, where and it doesn't need to be, I know what Shai and Sam were talking about, or I know what Hart and Mark are talking about, but like from person to person, organization to person, teammate to teammate, like having clarity of role, having clarity of expectation, and then from there, I think the character of people that you bring in, like I think that's one of the things that I love about the organization and the team that I've picked up in the last 8 months, is everybody comes to work ready to work. Everyone treats everybody from whatever position in the organization the same. And then, you reward success. If someone has a good game, you're happy for them. If someone has a bad game, you pick them up. And from there, you navigate the season really well. But I think having, as an organization, having, transparency of expectation and then good communication, I think, those are the things that you really want.
Well said. Mr. Caruso.
Raps.
Cut.
And cut.